Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore the invisible forces shaping our school systems every single day. Most of us just accept the subjects we're taught as a given, but behind every single math class, literature assignment, and standardized test is an invisible architect. Today, we're mapping out the philosophical foundations of the curriculum. We're going to look at the deep-seated beliefs that actually dictate what knowledge we consider valuable enough to pass on to the next generation.
Section 1. Who decides what we learn?
To understand the foundations of our curriculum, we really need to start on the ground level with a very real modern conflict. It's basically a tug of war that dictates what happens in classrooms worldwide, determining what students focus on from their earliest days of school right through to their university degrees. Take this real-world demand, for example. Officials arguing that schools must consult the private sector to produce quote-unquote market-ready workers. The Prime Minister explicitly states that education officials need to look at the private sector's manpower needs and future trends to adjust the current curriculum. And the core argument here is incredibly pragmatic, right? Schools absolutely must equip students with knowledge that's immediately useful to the specific nature of their future jobs. In this view, we simply cannot run away from the responsibility of supplying a capable workforce for nation building.
Section 2. The love of wisdom.
Now, this real-world demand for market-ready workers kind of forces us to zoom out to 30,000 feet and ask why we teach what we teach. Because when you start arguing about whether a school should be a training ground for industry or something else entirely, you cross the line from standard administration directly into the realm of philosophy. And philosophy, which is literally a combination of the Greek words philos, meaning love, and sophia, meaning wisdom, is definitely not just abstract academic jargon. It's a deep curiosity seeking to understand the nature of things. It's the ultimate pursuit of making the complex clearer. Philosophers aren't just sitting in isolated towers, they're looking closely at the world, stating anew what others have put forward, and really trying to clarify the foundational principles of how we all live.
And this curiosity frames profound concepts like morality, truth, and beauty as puzzles to be solved. Philosophers have obsessed over these exact types of questions for centuries. What is truth? Why do we say a statement is correct or false? What is reality? What does it actually mean when something is right or wrong, good or bad? These questions aren't just fun little thought experiments. They form the absolute bedrock of how we view the world, acting as the underlying methods for achieving true understanding.
Section 3. Education's big questions.
Let's see how this builds when we bring these grand theoretical inquiries back down to earth to examine the philosophy of education. Because when you apply that love of wisdom directly to how we raise the next generation, you hit upon some deeply foundational, highly consequential questions. Think about this fundamental one, which heavy hitters like Plato, Confucius, and Dewey have all written about over the centuries. What is education, really? Is it merely the transfer of specific industrial skills from a teacher to a student, or is it a broader awakening of the human mind? The greatest critical voices in history have all tried to provide a basic understanding of what education is and what it truly can be.
So, following that, what is the purpose of education? Does it exist to develop ethical, moral citizens, or to make people mature in politics and economics so they can face society's challenges? This is where the tension really lies. Do we want our schools to focus on aesthetic values and personal responsibility, helping students know who they really are? Or, going back to that earlier quote about nation building, is the primary purpose to feed the job market and drive dynamic industrial development?
And then we have to ask, what does it actually mean to know something? By asking this, we recognize that the entire development of a civil, enterprising society depends entirely on how we answer it. If to know something just means memorizing a fact to perform a specific job, we build one type of society. But if it means understanding the deeper reality of a subject to become a thoughtful, moral citizen, well, we build an entirely different one. The relationship between education and society is a direct reflection of this exact answer.
Which brings us to the mechanics of it all. Philosophy is the undeniable starting point. It acts as the criteria that dictates the physical reality of choosing textbooks, assigning homework, and testing students. You simply cannot skip step 1. If you propose teaching a new subject, the immediate question has to be, what is your philosophy for introducing that content? If you don't have an answer, your proposal goes nowhere. This philosophy dictates what subjects are of value, how students should learn the content, and exactly how many tasks or assessments they're going to face.
Section 4. A timeless educational debate. Now, let's complete the loop and see how our debate about job training versus character building is actually anything but modern. We tend to think of our current arguments over market-ready curriculums as completely unique to our fast-paced industrial world, but get this incredible complaint about those exact same issues was actually written over 2,000 years ago by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. He's lamenting that there's no general agreement about what the young should learn. He literally asks if training should be directed at things useful in life, which is exactly what our modern prime minister was demanding for the workforce, or things conducive to virtue. We are quite literally still debating the exact same issues Aristotle was frustrated by in ancient Greece. How wild is that?
Throughout the centuries, this ongoing back and forth over what the young should learn has spawned several distinct educational philosophies that we'll be exploring in the future. The core Western philosophies of perennialism, essentialism, progressivism, and reconstructionism all emerged as attempts to finally solve this puzzle. And they sit right alongside the profound perspectives of Eastern philosophers like Al-Farabi, Tagore, and Confucius. Each one of them offers a completely different blueprint for the ideal curriculum.
Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Where do you personally fall in this 2,000-year-old debate? Your personal philosophy is the invisible architect that will dictate the future of our society. So should our schools prioritize the practical demands of the workforce and nation building, or should they focus on the timeless development of human virtue and intellect? It's a question that has puzzled humanity for millennia, and the answer shapes the very foundation of tomorrow's world.